Hi, I'm Luke Charlton, and welcome to this week's Elite Entrepreneur Show. Really happy to have you with me and with my guest coming on in a few moments once again. So, first of all, I hope you have a pen and paper ready because, as with every week, we're going to be delivering some amazing content for you. So, you're definitely going to want to have a pen and paper ready to write down some notes. Secondly, this episode, this training development, business development episode for you is based around changing your mindset to change your profits, to change them into big profits in 2014. Now, we went into a little bit about this last week in my interview with Kevin, about how mindset contributes hugely to your success as a coach. So you're really going to want to review last week's episode, which you'll be able to find at zagcoaching.com/blog. So every week, all of our episodes, all of our training programs go to that link, basically, zagcoaching.com/blog. So go back and review that episode with Kevin after this. You've seen this episode, of course, and you'll be able to see, what it takes to. That episode was about starting a coaching business from scratch and what it takes to build a successful coaching business and how mindset comes into that. So that's why I'm really excited to bring on today's guest, which we will in a few moments because we're going to delve even deeper into that into this topic around changing your mindset. Before we do get into that, if you have never seen this show before, the Elite Entrepreneur Show, you may have seen, first of all, if you're not watching this show from eliteentrepreneurshow.com, you're going to want to head over to that link right now. I'll put it up on there for you so you can see that, eliteentrepreneurshow.com. So if you're watching this live, head over there right now if you're not at that site at the moment. And the reason why you want to do that is because this show, number one, is for you, the coach, consultant, speaker, or trainer watching and helping you grow your business. So you want to head over there because it's an interactive show. This is an interactive media show for you. So when you head over to that link, you'll be able to put your comments in the box and ask questions from me or from our guests coming on and really get instant feedback on what we will be teaching you to grow your business. So head over to eliteentrepreneurshow.com and we go live. Let me bring this banner back up. We go live every single week, every Thursday at 12 p.m. PST, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 8 p.m. British Summer Time at the moment. So the same time every single week. So what's this show about? Well, number one, it's about changing lives because we as coaches love to change lives. That's why we love to help people, right? So number one, it's being able to help you change more lives. Number two, it's about living anywhere, being able to have this lifestyle business where you can coach from anywhere in the world. And if you've been following me over the last few weeks, or if you follow me on Instagram, it's at Luke Charlton, you'll see that I am coaching from really amazing places around the world. So being able to have that lifestyle business where you can coach from anywhere that you want. And number three, becoming the new rich. Now, in this context, it's about having a business that works for you, where you no longer have to worry about selling and marketing, where you just instantly attract clients and they're coming and they're seeking you out. You're not seeking them out. And what does that give you? That gives you ultimate choice and ultimate freedom where your business is working for you. So you can choose to work with just a few long-term clients so you can have more of a lifestyle business, or you can choose to work with lots and lots of clients and change more lives. But then, of course, that takes up a bit more of your time. But it comes back to having that ultimate choice. So the next segment that we go into at the start of every episode is, number one, I'll give you an update on so I'll share my screen here, as I do every week. Now, this is my team, the Roosters, and we got absolutely flogged last week. We played like crap, and I want to show you a picture that really illustrates this, communicates this perfectly. If you don't know what rugby league is, that ball there is meant to be in his hands. And that's a rooster being tackled there, being absolutely smashed by the Cowboys. And we played abysmal. That's the word. So we better pick it up for next week because we're playing the Bulldogs and they are at the top of the table. So that'll be a really, really good match. So I'll be interested to see. So hopefully we can. We've got the team to beat them, but no, after what we did last week, who knows? Okay, the next part I want to show you just a picture from what I've been doing over this past week. Now this is a photograph that I took last week as I was. One of the things that I really like to do, and this is why this is a really great going on along the lines of the theme of this week's episode. One of the things that I like to do is take time out of speaking with clients and doing all the other sales and marketing, and take time to sit back and reflect on what I'm doing with my business and where I am going. I'm just going to bring this back here. So I like to take the time out, and I do this most of the time. I didn't do this last week, but most of the time I do it every Friday. So I'll take a whole Friday off to sit and reflect on the week, and also to think about where I'm going with my business as well. And one of my mentors said, sometimes in order to speed up, we have to slow down. And one of my strategies that I'm sharing with you, that I share with my clients to help them accelerate their results, is just to take a Friday off or pick one day of the week where you don't have anything planned, where you can sit back and reflect. And it's one of these exercises that we know that we should do, right? We know that we should work out or eat healthily, or we know that we should, as I mentioned in my message that I sent out on Facebook and in my email list, we know that we need to send mum a birthday card for her birthday, but sometimes it doesn't happen. It's the things that we know that we should do that we aren't doing in business. But this is a real key strategy that I use for myself and my clients use to accelerate their results, where they just take time to sit back and reflect on the results that they've had and how they can use that to move forward. And coming back to the theme of today's episode, changing our mindset to then change our profits into 2014. So doing the things that we know that we should be doing. How do we do that? Well, that's why I'm really excited to bring on today's guest expert. So he has over 20 years coaching consulting experience. He also is the CEO of one of Australia's very top coaching organizations, which is Robert Holmes. But that's not why I'm excited to bring him on. I'm excited to bring him on because he is also an expert in human performance and behavioral change and really unlocking potential. So I hope, again, you have a pen and paper ready, because I do. And I'm really keen to find out some of his strategies on how he unlocks his potential in his clients to get these results, and how you can do the same in your business. So with that being said, may I please welcome Robert and Robert Fraser. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, Luke. How are you?
Fantastic. And what I want to mention for the viewers watching is that Robert is coming live from Australia, and it's 5 a.m. or just past 5 a.m. in Australia at the moment. So, Robert, I really thank you for waking up at this time in the morning and for coming on live to the show with us.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. Five's a pretty standard time for me to get up.
Nice. Well, Robert, what I want to do is, why don't you, because this guy just started his lawnmower, so why don't you give people an introduction on who you are and a bit of your background and experience, and I'll just go get my headphones and microphone so it's a bit better, a bit clearer for everyone watching. So do you want to do that? Okay. Give people a bit of your background and where you started and how you became to be the CEO of one of the top coaching organizations in Australia.
Sure, thanks, Luke. Well, my business partner is Jamin Fraser. He's probably better known for being an elite athlete, cycling, running, triathlons. My name's Robert Holmes, and I'm the other partner in that company. I've got a background in management consulting and business consulting. Spent 15, 18 years doing that. Did a partnership with him about 3 years ago, and we began to grow our business together. we were offering coaching into lots of different spaces that other people hadn't attempted to go into, like coaching with the long-term unemployed, which oddly enough, there's a lot of federal money here in Australia to assist with the long-term unemployed queue. So designed and built a program that could be run by other coaches, and then got into the education space and started coaching teenagers. And again, there's a federal funding to assist with both high-performing and underperforming students in high schools. And then more recently signed a contract with the military to work with returned soldiers. So just pushing into areas that a lot of coaching standalone coaches don't push into, and trying to build a business that can run without us. So both Jamin and I, have endeavoured to do things that are replicatable, scalable, and sustainable, whether we're on deck or not. I mean, both he and I love coaching anyway, so we would want to get in there and get our hands dirty and help businesses. So my passion is helping business owners grow their business, and they often have me come in to work on systems, only to realise that my preference is to work on the individual who's running the business, to get better outcomes. So so that's a bit of my background.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I work with a lot of coaches too, that they're, especially newer coaches, where they think that they need they're very, and I was the same, and I come from this, speaking from experience. We think we need that one more marketing strategy. We need that, we need to read that, that one more book before I can go and implement, or we need this one system. When really, speaking about the topic of today's episode, comes back to it's not so much needing a new tactic or a new strategy, but going into the marketplace and implementing, taking focused, outcome-driven action is what it really comes back to. But before we get into that, what I noticed there when you were just speaking about the different areas that you have gone into, what I'm seeing with your success is that you have really kind of niched down. You've found where there's a need in the market. But at the same time, you just mentioned that not many other coaches are willing to go and coach in that area. Is that how you identify new markets to go into?
Well, it's very organic. So if you go back 3 years or 4 to when Jamin first offered to coach somebody in the long-term unemployed queue, it was because he was pushing into 10 or 11 different areas at that time, and did his first, coaching session there on the ground with what are called job service agencies here in Australia, JSAs. And the outcomes were phenomenal, and the manager there had never seen anything like it, and said, well, are there more coaches like you? So he was willing to say yes to a gig. He was willing to say yes to having a go. That isn't the same story as schools, so we then said, well, wait a minute, how do people get on the long-term unemployment queue? They come from jails, they come from schools because they dropped out, they come, their business fails, and so they end up unemployed. So let's, run off up in the direction of where these people are coming from. Mm-hmm. And that took us into schools, small businesses. We had a crack at jails, but there's not a lot of funding and they certainly aren't going to pay for their own. So coaches, they often get up in the morning and they say, I want to earn $800 an hour, and right now I'm earning $50. So how do I get that $800 an hour gig? And I don't want to say it's a hard slog, but it's a bit of a distance between 50 and 800. Are you willing to do 10 times 200? Are you willing to do 8 times 400? You got to work your way there. And so we were willing to do 40 or 50 coaches times 125. The math all works out in the end if you're willing to push in. But a lot of people graduate from their coach training college with these highly self-inflated ideas of what they're worth, and haven't built themselves 6 years of history or 12 months of history to be able to then go say, well, here's what I charge and here's why. And that's why the failure rates are so massive. If you take the numbers from Coach U or TCI or IECL or any of the coach training organisations, they're promising the world and delivering, 90% failure.
Yeah.
And I'm just not down with that. So I'd rather people build, a believable path from their training to their dream.
I could not agree with you more. It's funny, I wrote a post on LinkedIn just last night, like it was pretty much a rant, saying how these coaching organizations, they don't educate their, as you just said, they're promising to the world, they make it seem like all you need is just this coaching certificate and you will be successful, and they don't really educate them on
mindset.
Really, number one, mindset, so they don't coach themselves.
Yeah.
They don't, and the other one is working on the business. So they're great coaches. There are so many great coaches out there that are great at coaching. That's working in the business. When it comes to working on the business, which literally contributes to 100% of your success as a coach and being able to be profitable, what I have a challenge with is where they're failing to educate the coaches that you really, if you're going to invest in this certification with us, you also need to really take working on your business as seriously as working in your business. And they really need to scare the absolute crap out of them and say, if you're not serious about that, then you will not be successful, and there's no point in signing on with us if you're not going to be trying to be serious around selling and marketing yourself.
Well, I was going to take the story just a tiny bit further, because if you sit there thinking, well, what does a coach want to go do? We want to go work with highly coachable individuals,
right,
successful individuals, business entrepreneurs. Why start in schools? Why start with dropouts? Why start with employment agencies? So if you think about our most recent success, so working with returned soldiers from Afghanistan, working with some of the most elite high-performance individuals, halfbacks, and sorry about the Roosters, working with the Cowboys, for example, and working with the Raiders, or one of our clients. Well, as it turns out, my business mentor owns the stadium you guys got hammered in, the 1-300 Smile Stadium with the Cowboys. I've sat in the booth watching that.
I think that stadium's worth about $200, isn't it? The 1,300. It's a country bumpkin stadium for people that are watching it.
Yeah, that's right. So if you think about how do you convince Army to take you on board? How do you convince a large corporation like the Australian War Memorial or a Canon Australia? How do you get them to take you seriously? Well, you've got to have a history. So they turn around and say, well, have you ever worked with individuals that have suffered trauma? Yes, we have. Have you ever worked with individuals who've had their life dream and plan derailed? Because they're describing their soldiers, right? And you say, well, yes, we have. And then here's our story. So you say, well, I can draw a line now from these individuals to the individuals I'm actually trying to coach, the ones I want, the clients I'm after. If you've got no history, if you've got no background, you've got no story to tell, then you're not going to be able to convince that next layer of client.
Yeah. And it's funny, coming back to what you just mentioned, story to tell. Some of the challenges that I see with coaches is that they go out into the marketplace and they don't tell their story. They don't leverage their story. So they're going out and telling people that they're like recently certified, which kills their positioning and it makes them not look like an expert. But if you go out into the marketplace and you're recently certified, you can leverage your story to show that makes you a credible expert, that you have experience in that area. So what you just said, I really wanted to bring back, is a really prudent, and what I don't see enough coaches doing is leveraging their own story, even if you don't have any video testimonials. But then you build up that track record.
Even if it's not directly related to coaching, maybe you were a teacher before you decided to be a coach. Maybe you ran your own small business. Maybe whatever, you used to be a psychologist. We'll pick up on that story and say, I've been working with people for 10 years, or I know how to run small businesses and I've got expertise in that ground. So you don't have to have been a coach all that time.
It's funny you mentioned teacher, because my one of my first business mentors that I ever invested in and I still continue to get coached by him actually. He was actually a teacher in his previous life for like 10 years. So the way that he leverages that story is he leverages it by saying he can put together advanced teaching and learning systems because he was a teacher. He knows how people learn, and therefore the business systems that he puts together are about helping you implement at a faster rate. Because in today's marketplace, it's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. So you need to be able to learn quickly and implement quickly. So that's how he leverages his story. So it was a good example that you brought up there.
Yeah, and you talk about fast eating the slow. One of the things Warren Buffett advises people who are building business is to build a fort and then build a moat. So some form of protection against everybody else getting in. So in the job service agency area, we have first mover advantage, and we've been there 3 years. Nobody can catch up. We know more about the industry than even job service agencies do. So we have first mover advantage in that field. In schools are wide open. So you've got to build yourself an intellectual property moat. What do we know that no one else knows? What do we have that no one else has? So now with Army, they've got rid of 2 contracts with coaches who focused on leadership development and performance enhancement, and they came and got us to work with wounded soldiers. So what do we have? We have a point of difference advantage. So they don't want leadership coaches. They don't want coaches that are working with performance, but they do want somebody to help out with all the, these poor soldiers have come home and the psychologists just aren't coping with, the PTSD, the trauma, the anxiety. Well, we're happy to get in there and have a crack because we help people like that all the time. I mean, that you've just described a quarter of the population. Happy to help. So what do we have then? We have a point of difference advantage over people. And I'm just saying, for me, well, then what about you? What about our listeners? What about the people that? What is your point of difference? What's your moat? What sets you apart and gives you a difference that you can hold on to?
Yeah, exactly. What you mentioned there, a key word was difference. So it's not about, and for the people watching, it's not about being better. It's not about being the best leadership coach. It's simply about being different, about delivering in a way that no one else can. And as you just said there, Robert, it's not about, they didn't want a leadership coach. They didn't want a regular coach. They wanted a coach that was able to work specifically with veterans, with wounded veterans, for example. So it's not about being better. It's just about being different. Why it's so important to be differentiated in the marketplace. And the great thing about that, Robert, is that when you are differentiated and you're not comparable to anyone else, then you get to charge whatever you want. Because how can they compare you to, I mean, of course there's the within reason, but you're literally not seen as a commodity. You're differentiated, and therefore you can set your own prices.
Yeah, that's right. And then how you set those prices is, based on their ability to pay or based on your willingness to take a deep breath and charge what you think you're worth. All of that.
Exactly right. Coming back to what you said at the start of when you first started introducing yourself around, you're working with business people and you go into work on their systems, or they think you're coming into work with their systems, but it really ends up around you working with them, and that's what today's show is about. Changing your mindset. For me, it's my belief that it's success in business and success as a coach, it really is coming down to a 90% mindset. Not so much having a new tactic or a new strategy, but going out and, number one, the two biggest things for me holding entrepreneurs back is focus and execution. So focusing on the right things and not getting procrastinated, and then executing on those. For you, what do you see is when you go to work with business owners in particular, because we're talking about coaches growing their business.
Yeah.
What are the 3 biggest challenges that you see that business owners or coaches have around mindset, and then how do you help them?
That's a great question, Luke. Number one, I think working in the business and not on it is a big problem. So we're responding to the urgent things all the time, the emails, the texts, the Instagram, all the communication that comes in. We're responding to urgent things instead of taking Fridays off, as you just said, and working on the business. So getting the hell outside your own space and working on it. That's a big problem. The second problem is that business owners aren't working on themselves. So they're saying to themselves, what do I need to I need a better marketing plan. I need a better strategy on LinkedIn and Twitter. I need, instead of stopping and saying, what is it about me that is not enhanced? What is it about me that I need to work on? And the third thing is that often people are showing up to a different battle. They're showing up to a fight that's in their head, not to the fight that's actually in front of them. So I once heard a Texan attorney say 90% of the cases that go to court and fail, in his experience, so he's a defense attorney, 90% of the cases that go to court and fail are because his client didn't show up to the case that was actually taking place. They were showing up to something else. They were saying, this shouldn't be happening to me. Why are these people suing me? This is so unfair. So they were working with woulds, coulds, and shoulds instead of the actual thing taking place. So I'll give you an example of that. Yep. I was working with the owner of a large signage company. So he builds and manufactures signs in far north Queensland here in Australia. And he owed, so Tropical Cyclone Yasi turned up, so an event that was bigger than Katrina, smashing into Townsville and northern Queensland, and his cash flow tanked. He ended up owing the tax department more than $500,000 in late fees and taxes, and went into meltdown. So I'm his business coach, and I'm calling him, we're on the schedule, I'm saying, how are you going? And he says, all this problem. And I said, and it was full of coulds and shoulds and woulds, and said, I don't know what to do. And I said, well, the first issue is you're not showing up to the fight that's actually taking place. You're saying, it's not my fault Yasi happened. Well, true. What's that got to do with you owing the tax department $500,000? Yeah. It's not fair. Yeah, you're right. It's not fair. What are you going to do about it? So one of the things I love to say to business owners is, just deal with the facts. Just give me the facts. What are the facts? You made a lot of money last year. You owe a lot of money to the tax department. That's all. So now tell me what you can do, and just give me the facts. Oh, well, I can't do anything. I don't know what I can do. I have no. Well, why don't we brainstorm that? Why don't we work on some alternatives and thoughts around that? By the end of the conversation, he's decided to get on the phone. He's rung the hotline and said, I'm in trouble. And they, number one, reduced his tax liability by more than $100,000, so they just wrote off tax debt. Number two, they came into a scheduled agreement with him to pay it off over 3 years, which they never do. And number three, he gets off the phone and all the anxiety's gone because now he has a plan. He has an actual thing that he can go do to deal with all this anxiety. So I think those are the big three. People aren't working on themselves. They're working in the business and not on it, so they're getting completely distracted by urgent but not important things, so they're not taking time off to think about the business. And thirdly, they're not showing up to the fight that's actually taking place.
That's very interesting. I want to come back to what you said about so there's the three there. I want to come back to the second one when you said not working on themselves, because this is the episode is about changing your mindset and to change your profits. And you are an expert in performance enhancement, and you actually use that word, not enhancing themselves. Do you have a few ways in which, number one, they're not enhancing themselves, and then maybe a couple of strategies that the coaches that are watching can use to quote unquote enhance themselves to then help with their business?
Sure. So as coaches, you've got a kit bag full of tools, right? So you've got your favorite go-to tools. So here at Fraser Holmes, we love the idea of chunking down to specificity and chunking up to generality. So What is it that I want specifically, and why is it that I want that? So you go down and then you go up. So whatever your favorite tool is, you've got a favorite coaching tool. Well, let's use it on yourself. So you want to build performance enhancement. You want to figure out how to use it. So here's an example of us working on our own team. Mm-hmm. We also believe in triads. We believe in mentoring one another to high performance. So we believe in, say for example, Luke, you record your next session with a client, and then you submit that recording to me, and I'll listen to it. If you're on my team, I'll listen to it and I'll give you feedback. So we've got 5 people on our executive team, and we record sessions every 2 or 3 weeks, and we submit it back and we give feedback. So that's another one of our favorite coaching tools. We use it on ourselves, and then we submit it into the team, and we get direct feedback. So, say for example, one of our favorite coaching tools is chunking, and Jamin and I then challenge the team to talk about or chunk on chunking. So we say, why as a company do we like drilling down, and why as a company do we like drilling up? Why as a coach would you want to do that? So let's talk about that together. So for a coach, what's your favorite tool that you keep deploying on your clients? Use that tool on yourself. So to get a bit of self-awareness around, why do I do the things that I do? Take, for example, we're lifestyle entrepreneurs, right? We do what we do. I live in rural New South Wales by choice. I grew up in Canberra, our capital, and I started my family in Sydney. Yeah. And I started my family in Sydney, and we got the hell out of there. We moved to the country on purpose. So I live on 4 acres. I live in a 9-bedroom house. I live on 4 acres. We have a horse in the yard. We live here because we chose to live here. We're lifestyle entrepreneurs. But how many hours a week do you work? Have you checked in on how many hours a week you actually work? Have you gone back to 40 hours a week? Why are you doing that? Are you actually pursuing, and do you have your mind on the things that you set out to do as a lifestyle entrepreneur? If you're not, we need to get out of that business and take a day off and stop and say, what am I doing here? What is this business for? It's supposed to be serving me, and it's not. So that's tip number 1. Pick your favorite tool and use it on yourself. Tip number 2 for peak performance, I like to work with energy management instead of time management. So you said, good on you for getting up at 5, and I say, most of the time I'm up at 5 because my high energy periods are between 5 and 9 in the morning. Now, this is a 2-story home, so upstairs my kids are going to start, kind of climbing out of bed around 7. So I'm going to go do 2 hours work between 5 and 7, and then spend an hour with my family. The kids are going to get on the bus and go to school. I'm going to put another hour in on communication, and then I'm going to stop working. I'm going to go walk the dog. I'm going to read a book. It's Friday. I'm probably not even going to work after this. So here in Australia. So
you can grab a beer.
You know what I mean?
I think it's beer o'clock at the moment, so you can go there.
So energy for me is like, I've got a lot of energy in the morning, and I don't really have a lot of energy late in the afternoon. My business partner, Jamin, he takes a sleep every afternoon. You want to try and call him at 1 in the afternoon, he's gone to bed. He's turned his phone off.
I've spoken to Jamin. He's actually told me that as well.
It's cool,
That's the great thing about having a lifestyle business, right? You decide your lifestyle, what you love to do.
Yeah, precisely.
You build it around your own, what you're saying.
Yeah, and the third point I would say in terms of performance is a thing that I call somatic wisdom. So you've got a head brain, you've got a heart brain, and you've got a gut brain. So your heart actually has a neural network the size of a cat's brain, and your gut has a neural network the size of a rat's brain, and they work in parallel, but they're not commanded by your head brain. So I often talk to people, and even peak performance athletes, like one of our clients is on the Honda racing team for the 600 series here in Australia. and I've been working with him on somatic wisdom. So what is it that's going on in your body that your body's telling you? For example, you might be sitting there in the middle of a tough business negotiation, and you're under stress, and your body is telling you, I'm stressed, mate, I need some time out. Well, get up and take a stretch and go for a walk. Stop the game for half an hour, grab a cup of coffee, have a juice, do something different. Listen to your body's wisdom. So I often ask myself, what do you want for breakfast? It might be a muffin and a coffee, or it might be go have a 3-course, bloody banquet. Go and have,
or a beer.
Go and have, yeah. Your body's going to tell you when you're under stress. It's going to tell you when you need to take a break. It's going to tell you what it wants to eat. Yeah,
exactly right.
Yeah, so dialing in to the wisdom going on. And so if you think about our peak performance racer, his body is trying to tell him it's safe to overtake, go on the inside. But his head brain says, oh, I don't do right hand outside, overtaking very well. And the minute he has to think, it's lost. He's never going to overtake. Mm-hmm. But his body has already told him it's safe, go. Mm-hmm. So we've got to work with him on listening to that somatic wisdom. Is it red light or green light? That's it. It's green light, go. So if it works for him, and we're talking about hundredths of a second for him.
Yeah.
The stakes aren't that high.
Is that what you're saying, this somatic wisdom, is this another way of saying intuition, or is it something else?
It can come across as intuition. So intuition is often thought about as right brain, right hemisphere. It's a picture, it's a thought, it's a non-verbal intelligence. Yes, and that intelligence can come from here, or it can come from your heart or your gut as well. So your gut and your heart can be another form of intuition, but it'll be non-verbal. It'll be a picture, it'll be a feeling, it'll be an instinct. And I mean, if you think about one of my passions is body language and watching people, watching their non-verbal cues. And I get asked by CEOs and executives to sit in on negotiations and watch the other team and give them feedback about what's going on. So they'll make an offer, and I'll watch the non-verbal cues, because their body, their somatic wisdom, is being very, very honest with you, even though their mouth says, oh, we don't agree and we think the price is unfair. Did you see my head? I just nodded. I actually think the offer you made is very fair.
Like that type of...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
they're the type of cues you're looking for. Yeah, Tony Abbott. Let's not go there. I don't want to go down to that road.
So the somatic honesty then, and the wisdom. Well, you can get used to listening to yourself, and you can get used to listening to your clients and watching them. Their non-verbal cues.
That's very, very, very interesting. I'm always I'm a big believer in listening to your intuition, especially when making business decisions, but especially just in life in general. I think there is so much wisdom that, as you mentioned, like not only your brain has, but your heart and your gut have this instinctive wisdom to help make decisions, or help you make a decision. And it's only when we bring our kind of conscious brain into it, and maybe the logical type reasoning, that what I find is that when I listen to my intuition, it's right, like no joke, 90% of the time. I have to say, it's when you start overthinking the decision, for me, is when that's when you get into the realm of like, that's when it kind of gets to the 50-50 point. But for me, whenever I listen to my intuition, that it's usually the right decision. What are your thoughts around that?
I agree. A couple of great books on that. So Emotional Intelligence by, is it Daniel Pink or Daniel Goleman? Emotional Intelligence.
I think it might be, but yeah.
Daniel Goleman. So would say use them together. So 90% of the time you're right, 10% of the time you're wrong. Don't forget your left brain is there for a reason, a governor. The other thing is most of your intuition is non-verbal, so how do you get words around it? So you have an instinct about what's right, but you can't express it in terms. So you're going to need to use or partner with, your very rational, very reasonable critical side as well. So take, for example, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Here's a woman who writes a book about how to write, how to access creative thought and wisdom. One of her advices to executives, business owners, coaches is sit down with a blank piece of paper and just start free writing. Just go for it for 10 minutes and don't stop, because the critic is sitting there always willing to stop and guess and harness and question, and she says just learn to silence the critic by writing flat out for 10 minutes without question, and in that flow you're going to find all sorts of intuition and ideas and wisdom getting out on the page. Of course, half of it's rubbish as well. Then you can,
and there'll be a lot of weird stuff in there too.
A lot of weird stuff in there too. But keep that up, keep that up for 30 days, and you're going to find amazing wisdom coming out with words, and then your critic can start, defining and refining and looking at it. I mean, recently, Jamin and I just went through this exercise of narrowing our 35-page business plan down to just one page, and just said, just give me one page. And he pulled it off in the end, because I wrote the 35-pager. And I'm highly left-brained, and he's
you gave him the hard task. You just wrote and just dumped a bunch of content on him and said,
I gave him the big one, yeah. And then he got it down to one page. But you know what? There was almost no link between the big document and the small. To get to one page, he had to go for intuition. He had to say, what feels right? What are we after? What are we going? And I made a joke the other day, because a friend of mine's starting another business, and he said, I've just got stuck writing the business plan. And I said, you understand that we're running one of the largest coaching companies in our country, and we don't have a business plan. We've got a one-pager. We've got a summary with bullet points. We don't have as much planning down as you do. And by the way, Warren Buffett doesn't believe in writing business plans either.
No, neither do I.
He runs a multi-trillion-dollar company. We're just running on a one-pager. Just go write some ideas down and get started. Just go.
I definitely am with you on not writing it. For me, business plans, you write one, and it's only, in the end, it's just a forecast. It's really just about getting a goal down. That's for me, a goal, and then working back. What are the steps? The challenge that I see with the business plan is that the business plan will change depending on the results that you get over the next one, or like I say, if it's a 12-month business plan. Let's say that you all of a sudden get 10 new clients, and you didn't expect, that was your goal for 12 months. Well, then you have a whole different business plan in the next month, right? Or what if you didn't get those 10 clients and you expected to get them in that first month? Then again, your business plan is, it's always evolving. So I'm completely agree with you in that. It's really about setting a goal and trying to stay in line with that goal. So what are the steps, and being kind of able to not blend, but move with that goal as your kind of results change at the same time.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the process of planning is where the value is, not in the plan. The business plan, as you just said, it changes the minute you've got it all down. But the value is in having done the 35 pages of work, because you bothered reading, research, you bothered looking at market, industry documents, you had a look at all your competitors, so the process is very valuable. Yes. But at the end, the plan is not worth the paper it's written on.
I love it. It comes back to what we were saying, and it's your number one tip. Not working on, working in the business and not working on the business. And that's what it really is. It's taking that time off on a Friday to work on your business, and where are you heading with your business, and just that process, the value of the process, that's where the value is. And then as soon as you have that document down, you might refer to it back every now and then, but just the value of the process, I think, that's where it inherently is the value.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I agree.
So, Robert, I know that you have, which I didn't mention at the start of this show. I don't know, I've kind of disappeared here. It's weird. There we go. Technical, Google does it all the time, and it's about to start pouring down there. I don't know if you can hear the thunder. But I know that you have, and I didn't mention this at the start of the show, you actually have quite a successful podcast called The Coach Mentor. Do you want to let people know a little bit about, number one, what that show is about, what they can expect to get from that show, and then if they wanted to get in contact with you, how they can go about doing that?
Sure, thanks, Luke. Yeah, I appreciate that. The Coach Mentor podcast is something I started more than a year ago, and every 2 weeks I interview experts in the field. So maybe they're researchers, academics, they're thought leaders, they've written a book. I can see you're about to get wet. Yeah. So every 2 weeks I interview somebody for about 45 minutes.
Yep.
It's an audio podcast, unlike the video one here. And then I provide show notes, information, background, and their research. So it's available at iTunes. So if you go to iTunes and type the Coach Mentor podcast or Dr. Robert Holmes, you'll find me. Or go to our website, which is fraserholmes.com. That's Fraser with a Z, Holmes with an L. .com/podcast. You'll find the Coach Mentor podcast. So I've interviewed all sorts of amazing people on marketing, building a coaching business, the research into intuition, you name it, and I'm into it. And I'm always on the lookout for new people to interview. So I'm usually I've got the next 4 to 6 people lined up.
Nice.
So if any of your listeners or viewers have suggestions about key thought leaders, I'd love to hear it.
Nice, thanks, Rob. Well, Robert, first of all, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show, for getting up. I know you get up at this time anyway, but seriously, for getting up at 5 a.m. to do an interview, I cannot thank you enough. And for second of all, for giving up an hour of your time and for sharing some of your wisdom with us and with the viewers on this show. So I wanted to thank you for doing that, coming on the show and being interviewed on the Elite Entrepreneur Show. One of the things that I do at the end of each episode is to ask just one question of each and every interviewee that comes on, and that is, well, amongst the other questions, but the final one I ask is, what do you believe, Robert, is your secret to success?
Teamwork, without a doubt. My staff and my team are everything about our success. So I told you we have an executive of 5. So that's Jamin, Michelle, Mark, Sue, and I. These are the 5 thought leaders in our company. These are the guys that get everything done. They're the go-to people. They make me look good. Yeah. So you've heard the kind of diarise it, delegate it, dump it, do it. Well, my go-to for success is delegate it. Find amazing human beings who are better than you, smarter than you, faster than you, and work with them. Work like crazy to make them look good.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, you got the delegation part down of giving all of that work to Jamin. So well, thanks, mate. I'm just holding the line there, and I'll speak to you in a couple of seconds in the green room. But again, thank you, Robert, for coming on the show. That's Robert Holmes, and again, that's Fraser Holmes, and Fraser with a Z and Holmes with an L.com/podcast. It's a great show. I've listened to it as well. So thank you again, Robert, for coming on. And to you, the viewer, thank you for giving up an hour of your time. Each and every week we try to deliver to you amazing content by bringing on the best experts, the elite entrepreneurs, to help grow you and your coaching business. So thanks again for watching, and remember to tune in next week at eliteentrepreneurshow.com. 12 p.m. PST, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 8 p.m. British Summer Time. This is Luke Charlton, and I will see you next week. Cheers.